What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Rahway on the phone. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Yep. It's so awesome to have you here. The newest EP is the Slumlords of New Jersey. I think that's a great East Coast title. I think it's so open to interpretation. It could be rock, it could be hardcore, it could be death metal. I feel like you really hit the nail on the head with the title right there. Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this EP was and everything like that?
Yeah, so we had a bunch of songs written, and we went in, we presented them to Mike Orlando of Adrenaline Mob. He's another fellow New Yorker out of Staten Island.
Yep, I spoke with him earlier this year.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, he's a great guy, and he loves the music, and he's like, I definitely want to work with you guys. So we went into his Sonic Stomp Studios. We went in to record it, and we did piece by piece, and Mike's like, what are you planning on calling the record? I got to tell you, Slumlords of New Jersey is a great title. Like, because we've been using it as a hashtag, because we did an interview earlier in the year, and we just called ourselves Slumlords of New Jersey, and I started using it as a hashtag for everything we did on social media. And he goes, that title is so badass. So we're like, all right, well, we'll just call the CD Slumlords of New Jersey, and it worked.
Very, very organic. Isn't it always funny how like the titles of everything like happens so accidentally?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, now we have like sequel titles like Section 8 or something like that. Or maybe like the Bastard Childs of Connecticut, or like the you're just gonna talk shit about every East Coast state. that'll be every band needs a gimmick, right? Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like now that we've taken on this whole Slumlords of New Jersey thing, like a lot of our T-shirts have taken on this New Jersey ambient look. So we have our CD cover looks like the Garden State Parkway.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Was there kind of like a preconceived idea of how you wanted this EP to sound, or was there kind of like a lot of improvising involved and like a lot of trial and error in a way?
It was more of this is just what we sound like. We weren't trying to make it sound like anything. We just write the way we write, and we like what we like, and it just seems like everyone seems to be gravitating towards it, which is great. Just want to have the big hooks, the arena style rock sound, and it's not dead. People still are thriving for it. So
yeah, what's funny is because I feel like rock has obviously grown so much, and like when I think of like a modern day rock band, I sometimes think, oh, are they kind of like Fozzy or 3 Days Grace or Otherwise or Shinedown or something like that? But then like, oh, are they more like classic rock sounding, like what you see what a lot of bands like the Jacks or South of Eden are sort of like doing? Like, is there a specific like source of inspiration that you guys sort of cite, or like maybe like a time period that you're referencing?
Well, I can't speak for our singer, but our singer Nick Haight, but the two brothers, the Cardenas brothers, Dave, the guitar player, and Steve, the drummer. We come from this Motley Crue genre, this era of like Motley Crue, Skid Row, Guns N' Roses. They're big fans of Led Zeppelin. I grew up on Motley Crue, so we grew up on that, and I think that's the inspiration that we draw from, whereas our singer brings us more of a modern vocal styling, and for some reason it just works. It's like magic whenever we get into the studio to rehearse or write, for that matter.
Yeah, so it's very organic. Yeah, all organic rock.
That's the best way to put it. Organic rock. I like it.
Yeah, that's going to be a genre in itself before you know it.
It should be.
Yep. You could pick up your CD at any CD store or at a grocery store.
We'll be sold in Whole Foods.
Hey, listen, stranger things have been done. That's one way to push the envelope, right?
It might be the way to go right now, the way things are going in this country.
Yeah, exactly. Being the bass player of the band, though, because, obviously it's rock and roll. People make bass player jokes all the time. I'm sure you've gotten your fair share of them. But what people don't understand is like bass has like a great source of both like rhythm at the same time as melody. So for you, when you're laying down your bass parts, do you need other music to kind of like write over, or have you ever had like a bass pattern written down and maybe that like the band would write according to that?
Well, two of the songs that are on Slumlords of New Jersey, Stone and a song called Only the Strong. They were written with based on bass riffs that I came up with. There's a song that we wrote called Undefeated, which is our CD right before this one, and that was written based on a bass riff. So a lot of times it comes down to who has the better riff, and then we'll just build on it. So I was lucky enough to have two of them for this CD. And what people don't understand is that the bass and drums are the backbone of every single song. So they can make fun of bass players all they want, and then I've grown up listening to people say, "Oh, I don't really hear you." Well, you don't hear me because you're feeling me. So that's the way I look at it as far as bass players go. You don't hear them, you feel them.
Yeah, and just remember, every time somebody makes a bass player joke, I just say the names of two rock stars who are sadly no longer with us: Lemmy and Peter Steele.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, and those were the two gods of what I do. So.
Yeah, in order to do you have a theoretical background as well, like knowing like what key you have to work off of and so on and so forth, or do you tend to like to improvise and kind of like let things sort of like fall into place? Going back to the organic rock thing.
Any theoretical background, it's more everything's done by ear and just from experience and what I've known and ear training just happened through the years. So it just, like I said, everything goes by what feels right. I mean, as long as we're in tune, that's all I care about. Yeah, and
especially, do you always like tune to Hell's Bells? Because if the intro to Hell's Bells, if you are just the slightest bit out of tune, you just play that riff, you'll be able to tell.
I didn't know that. That's something interesting.
Yeah, it's there is so much truth to that. I always hear like my friends who are like in rock bands, they always like do their last minute like tuning thing to Hell's Bells, because that thing, it's one of the best opening solos of all time or opening introductions of all time. But if it's just slightly out of tune, it is the most unbearable thing to hear.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. That's news to me, but I believe you.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when it comes to playing the material live, like, do you channel a similar energy into your live presence as you do when you're songwriting, or is that almost two completely separate arts altogether?
Playing live is a totally different animal. It's funny because as we get older, we're not as limber as we used to be. So my guitar player and I have this ritual where we just stretch right before we go on. We stretch, listening to Pantera or Motley Crue or something like just like heavy, and it just gives us that vibe. And Red Bulls don't they help. They definitely help. And once we get out there, we just put on 110% of our energy, and watching our singer sing and put on his show just definitely helps amp you up a lot more.
Yeah, like the energy seems to circulate through all the members, right? Yeah. And at what point in the songwriting process, here comes the most difficult question, how do you know when the song is officially finished?
They're never finished until they're on tape. So, I mean, right up until we laid all these tracks down with Mike Orlando, we're still making changes right up until the final mix. So they're never done. I always live by they're never done until they're on tape, until they're in CD stores or streaming services or whatever. They're never done until that.
Have you ever finished a song and just immediately knew after listening to the final mix, oh, I could have done that there, or we should have done that there?
Every single time.
Yeah. I've always said that there's this place called Songwriting Purgatory, where like every way that a song could have been or should have been or would have been, whatever, always ends up there.
That's interesting. That'd be a great site to have and hear what. It'd be interesting to hear some of the things that musicians would say. Oh man, I wish I would have done this, or revamps of songs to make them right.
Yeah, well, we used to. It was called LimeWire, but
that's true.
But don't want to give your computer cyber AIDS. Now, when it comes to like getting the inspiration to write, especially for your parts, do you find it easier to come up with new parts when you're kind of like in the company of your other bandmates, or do you try to like to be alone, less where there's like nothing really in between you and your instrument?
I always found it easier to come up with new parts when I'm with my bandmates. There are always inspirations, and sometimes if I hit a block, my guitar player Dave would be like, "Hey, well, just try this. This might work with this." And my drummer, who's an amazing songwriter, Steve, he'll say, "Hey, I think this might go well in this part because this is what I'm playing on drums." And then there's that aspect of having Mike Orlando as a producer, who actually helped immensely with some of the bass parts, because he's an amazing guitar player, and he knows my style, and he's just like, "Hey, you know what? I think this lick would sound good here. Why don't you try this?" And he really brought a lot out of me. So I mean, it's just having people around that was very inspirational, instead of sitting in my office or in my studio alone, coming up with stuff.
Yeah, and kind of going back to working with Mike Orlando, I've always said that the producer is the 5th Beatle, the 6th Beatle, if you're in Slipknot, the 11th Beatle. So like, obviously working with him, he really helps bring your vision to life, but he's also taught you new things that maybe none of you four have even thought of, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he's really brought a lot out of us. He should be the new Bob Rock. he's like really, really good at, and bands. I mean, there are a lot of local bands now that I know that are actually going to work with him, but he's amazing, and anyone will be lucky to work with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's also, I've noticed he's very versatile. Like he'll play rock and roll, but he'll also play like power metal. Like I was listening to the new Her Chariot Awaits album, and that really does have kind of like a little bit of power metal influence into it as well. So like, I feel like he is like the next door for an artist to discover things that they never thought they were capable of, or even really thought that they liked.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's just, I mean, if you get a chance to listen to Slumlords of New Jersey, you'll hear, just listen to the power that he brought out of it. It's just amazing. I couldn't be happier with this EP.
Yeah. When it comes to like calling yourselves like the Slumlords of New Jersey, it's almost kind of like you're the Gwar, like being scumdogs of the universe or something like that. But I'd imagine, do you guys in a way, like, do you feel like this album almost portrays you guys as like certain characters or something like that?
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess so. I mean, we when we came up with the title, I think we were just looking for something grimy and gritty and dirty, just like New Jersey. It's Rahway, New Jersey is not exactly it's not exactly heaven. Let's just say.
Yeah. Have you ever played a show? Have you played a show in Camden yet?
No. I've actually lived near Camden, so it's pretty gross.
Hey, play a show there. That'll be the most metal rock show you'll ever play. We're one of them. I mean, they bring a lot of festivals out there too, so. Yeah,
the BB&T Pavilion is I guess the place. It's the PNC Bank Art Center of South Jersey.
Yeah, so. That's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah, it is. I've seen Motley Crue there. I met Motley Crue there, so yeah, it was a good place to see a show.
Definitely. Is there kind of, though, like in your region of South Jersey, a scene that you guys are currently affiliated with, or like is really the goal for Rahway at this point in your career to kind of like go outside your state lines a little bit more?
Well, with the unique thing about Rahway is that we've been more regional than local. We don't really play in Jersey that much. It's once in a blue. If it's a good show, like if we can have a show at Starland Ballroom, or up north at Dingbats, or what the hell's that? Debonair Music Club. One of those places we'll play. But other than that, we usually play out of the state. We play in Rhode Island a lot. We play in Massachusetts. We played in Norfolk, Virginia. We do a lot of shows in New York. A lot of stuff in Pennsylvania. A lot in Pennsylvania, actually. We did a sold out show at the FM Kirby Center with Greta Van Fleet. So I mean, we're not Jersey. We're not a Jersey band, even though we're from Jersey.
Okay, I've always said that New Jersey is the 6th borough of New York City. Like,
yeah, basically.
Yeah, because I feel like that there is like a really, like, I know a lot of bands that are based out of there, but I've noticed that like when a band says that they're from New Jersey, they prefer to just say we're from the East Coast or we're from the New York region or the tri-state or something like that.
Yeah, we used to do that. But to an extent, we have to admit our Jersey roots. So we'll never say we're a New York City band. We'll say we're a Jersey band. So, like I said, to some extent, we have to be proud of that. But the New York City scene, nothing like it. There's nothing like it, and we're always happy to play in New York.
Awesome. We're always happy to have you as well. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else with Rahway that you would like to promote? Obviously, thanks to a certain virus that shall not be named, obviously shows aren't happening at the moment. But I'd imagine that when all this is over, we'll be seeing you guys on the road quite a bit, and to hear some more Slumdogs of New Jersey material live, right?
Yeah, we'll get it out there. Right now we're just trying to pump out as much content as possible since we can't see everybody. Sometimes my drummer and I will do like a live Facebook Live virtually to reach out to our fan base and let them know what's going on. But hopefully, we'll be able to get out there and start playing again as venues will hopefully start opening up in the spring of 2021.
Awesome.
But for now, just check out RahwayBand.com and all of our social media sites.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Rahway, the Slumdogs of New Jersey. Be sure to check it out. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.